Alright, so this time I'm going to pick up, I think I'm going to pick up cobalt blue instead of the ultramarine. It's a little bit of a greener blue, and I'm just going to go over this on dry. Now, and again, I'm going to start it like I did the other. I'm going to just go across the top first and then kind of work my way down. I don't care if I've got a little bit of movement in my sky, because that'll look like high clouds. I'll paint around my clouds. This is negative painting on these clouds. And that'll just help the clouds look a little more defined by creating a greater difference between the light of the clouds and the sky. Out of the way. And that's one thing I like about these angle brushes, is that I can really get into some of these little cracks and crevices. But you can kind of see the difference between this side and that side, in that the clouds are a little more defined here. Now I don't want to just leave them with hard edges, so I'll come back in. This is just a damp brush, and I'm just going on the inside of the cloud and just touching the edge of what I just did, so that it just softens just a little bit. Pick up some. Just kind of make kind of motions with my brush, so that when it dries, if the brush strokes show up, they'll look more like high clouds. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at this in the monitor. That's better. That's more. I'll have to look at it again once it dries, but that's looking better. I was not happy with it, but you know, you need to see how to fix things. So you know, it took a couple minutes, but you know, I got that fixed. The bottom here. And another thing, I kind of want to soften some of this area too. So this is just a damp brush, and I've got some of that gray still left in here. I thought it just looked a little bit too outlined for my wants and needs. So I'm just going to come back in and create a little shapes back here, like shadows and stuff in the clouds, while kind of just lightening those harder lines that I have. These are clouds, so that they're not going to have real hard lines. Oh, that looks better already. not too many places I really want to change, but and then under here I've got several kind of forms of gray going on. And trying to give it a little more shape at the top because it's going up into the clouds. The bottoms can be a little flatter because of the that's where the moisture from the surface starts to condense, and so that's why the bottoms are a little bit flatter. But I'm trying to soften that bottom so that it's not too hard. It's my burnt sienna. I'm just going to take my burnt sienna and then my cad yellow light. So I get this kind of one of those dark mustard colors. And let's test it out on something. So I'm going to test it. Okay, that's actually not too bad. I just need to add a little more water to it. And load up my brush. One of the things, and I know a lot of people get very they're trying to paint around all of this. This is all the tops of the trees and everything, and there's bushes and stuff along the top. But if you look at your reference, those trees and all of the bushes and the stuff, they're a lot darker than the ground behind them. So you can paint right over what you put down for the cliff. So I'm just going to come in here and just add this. And I'm going to add just a touch more burnt sienna. Let's see if so I'm looking at my reference. I'm kind of pulling down. I don't know if any of these brush strokes will show up, but if they do, then they're going in the direction of the cliffs. So that's the underpainting for the cliffs. And then up in the next level here, it's a little bit more on the burnt sienna with just a touch of blue in it. So I'm just picking up a little more burnt sienna. This is the underpainting. This isn't finished product. So this is just a little bit of burnt sienna. Now if you have like a raw sienna or an ochre that you like, that will work too here. I'm just using colors that I have on my list usually. I'm going to rinse my brush. The top of this is just a little bit lighter in places. Pull that color up. Pick up just a touch of burnt sienna on its own. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that color that I just mixed up, that burnt sienna and yellow, thin it down just a little bit more, and I want to put that on this back cliff, because in the photograph you can see a little bit of color, and that little bit of color will bring it closer, because it is a little bit closer than it looks right now. A little touch of orange, a little touch of burnt sienna. Just trying to get a little bit warmer underpainting for these, because this will end up being the highlights. Test my. So let's see. No, I'm going to add just a touch more orange to it. Hi, Meow. Yeah, that'll work. And again, this is just underpainting, so I'm just going to. Yes, I know you're in the house. Just underpaint these. And then I'll let you guys work, because I'll need things to dry off here in a minute. Now as I'm putting this on, I'm trying to keep that, I'm doing like little ellipses down here at the bottom. That allows the rocks to look like they're settled into the water. I can also rinse my brush, and with just a damp brush I can go along the bottom and just let some of that color go into the water. That would be fine. Let's start some reflections. And more color. I'm going to start out, probably use this 1/2 inch angle brush for most of it, and a lot of the work is going to be done with the very edge of this. So you know, I'm not going to be, you know, using the whole brush. It's going to be mostly the edge, especially in that distant area. So I'm picking up my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to add just a touch of my Hooker's green deep into it. A little water. Now, one of the things, in the back, it's dark in the picture, but I don't want to get it too dark. So I'm going to test that, and I think that'll be good, because it will you know, because there's other paint on there, it will be a little bit darker. So I'm just kind of tapping horizontally with the very edge of my brush. Kind of get that horizon line in all the way across. And I don't necessarily want to lose all of that color that I have down in there. That becomes like waves and tops of swells and things. So I can leave some of that. So I'm just tapping in there. I'm looking at the photograph and I see that there's a wave right in here, but I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary to get it in. I'm going to change the color just a little bit. Add a little bit more of my Hooker's green. So, test it out. So see, it's a little bit different color here. And this is all I'm doing, is just kind of dragging it across, leaving some of that lighter color in there to create sparkle and suggestions of things in there. But I'm taking it, at least I'm trying to take it horizontally across. Even though it looks flat on here, from what you're seeing, I've got it at a pretty steep angle so that it's flat to you. Okay, let's see, when I come down in here, same thing. I'll probably have to do this again. Add a little bit more green and blue. A little less water. It's closer, so it'll be a little bit darker. And now I'm kind of, in some places, kind of making a little U shape as I go across. That'll indicate that there's a swell coming in. And then in between the swells, I just tap across. Don't be afraid to overlap and connect. I'm adding on my palette a little bit of that cobalt blue that I used in the sky, because I'm seeing some places where it just is more of a blue than a green, so I can use that color too, but I'm adding it in the same way. Little swells, little bits of movement here. Leave bigger spaces between because it's closer, you'll see a little bit more detail, a little more of the light area. Come right up behind my waves there. My little foam, I guess that's what that is. Paint around the foam, that's negative painting. And then this part that's right here is coming up into the shallows. So it's going to be a little bit smoother. It won't have quite as many little waves and stuff as this has back here. So, but it is going to be a little bit darker underneath the waves. So I'm picking up some more of my ultramarine blue, and right at the bottom I'm going to come in and just create a little bit of a darker color, because this will create a bit of a shadow right under. rinse my brush, and then I want to come on this side of it and just work that out into the other part so that the shadow's right up there underneath the foam. But I'm still going at a horizontal stroke with this to keep my water looking flat. Now this has got a little bit of some lavender in there. So in that cobalt blue, I just put a little touch of alizarin crimson in it. And I'm just going to kind of come through and just add some of that lavender color. Now this water reflects what's directly above it, so there could be some clouds that is causing this to be a little bit more on the lavender side. This is just a damp brush. I'm softening the edges of this. It could be a little bit deeper right in there too, and that would create a darkening of the color. Come back right in here. There's a little bit of a ripple. And this was with my green and blue. Another little ripple. Now I may have to wait until it dries. Under this area here, there's another little shadow caused by the foam. I'm going to take my cobalt blue and that alizarin crimson. So I'm just going to come in with that color and just go right underneath that ripple. And that'll give the ripple just a little bit of height, so it looks like it's a little more substantial than this part, which is just wet sand. Now I don't need to do it on that back side because that's away from us, but this part here we can see. And again, I'm just coming in and softening that shadow, and it looks like my paper's falling apart for some reason. Okay, so this is just getting started on this. There's debris and everything else in there. I can put some other little ripples. Now what I'm going to be doing here is, even though I'm making kind of straight lines, I'm going across, I'm just wiggling my brush and horizontally, but making it curved. It's amazing how much your eye will pick up. Okay, now the water's starting to look a little bit more like water. I don't want to get too involved in doing the water right now, but this is just getting it. Now in this back one back here, I just need to add just a suggestion of, there's trees and other things growing there. So I've still got that lavender color that I mixed up in the back. I'll show you what it is. This is just kind of a light lavender. That was my cobalt blue with a little bit of alizarin crimson in it. And I'm just going to, like, right along the tops, just kind of make a there's trees and other little things that grow on these hills. And that'll just add, it'll bring it just it'll bring it just a little bit closer. Instead of looking 50 miles away, it looks 10 miles away or 5 miles away. Because the further something is away from you, the less detail you're going to see. So I'm adding some of this detail, so it'll just bring it a little bit closer. And I'm going to take, let me look at it. Going to mix up the sienna and the orange. Orange is a much more powerful color than either the sienna or the blue. And so a little will go a long way. I'm adding just a tiny, tiny touch of blue in there. Just that blue just graze it. And then back here just kind of tap along that, add just a little bit more color to it. And that's about all I'm going to do to that farthest cliff. I can take my burnt sienna. It's kind of the same color that I used to underpaint it. Little orange. No blue this time, at least not yet. And I want to come down and maybe a little more sienna. So I'm just going to come down and I don't need to be exact with these. I'm using like the point of my brush. Leave some of that lighter color that becomes highlights on the dirt there. Follow angles. This is that eroded cliffs. You can go back in behind all the trees too if you want to. Like I said, the trees and the plant life is a lot darker than this. So I'm just coming in and suggesting that there's eroded cliffs back in here. Now this is just a little bit lighter. It's a path. So I'm just adding a little bit of water to my my brush. Let's see, maybe even that color that I used back in there, because there's some boulders and rocks and stuff right along the bottom. Leave that. I'm just thinking, okay, now I'm gonna, I still have that purple color that I mixed up. With something that is this far away, I mean, it's maybe a quarter mile away from where I am, where I took the photograph. You don't want any real darks. Everything's going to be kind of a shade of gray. So this is that lavender color that I was just using, but now I'm going to come in and just in some spots, just add some shadows in there. They don't have to be real dark. And if that's become a little bit too hard line, so I rinse my brush, and I'm just going to take a damp brush and just kind of touch those lines I just put in, both the purple lines and the brown lines. Pick up a little more. Up at the top there might be more shadows. Don't line them all up like I'm doing. You want to kind of break them up, long ones, short ones, things that connect. Might be a deep little erosion there. The darker it is, the deeper it'll look. Some of these are pretty light because they're just pretty much on the surface. But don't forget to come back and just kind of soften edges. Kind of like the clouds. There aren't a lot of hard edges here because of the nature of erosion. It's just going from top of something kind of rounded. Let me look at my... There is some darkness on this. Little point that sticks out there. This is just that purple. Now I'm not going to get into any of this in the foreground just yet. We'll do some of that next week.